Hey everybody, my name is Pluto. Welcome to another commentated video. In this video we're going to be doing Dj0nk's Strange Sands 100 coins. Dj0nk's, of course, very infamous hack. Strange Sands, very infamous level. 100 coins, very infamous star. Somebro made a theory test of this stage when he got torture test, which showed a humanly viable route, but I think a lot of people didn't really expect it to happen, including myself, because it just seemed so unlikely that someone could get 45 out of 70 reds in such a brutal stage. But here we are. I don't want to waste too much time talking about the star because there will be better time, talking about like the meta analysis of the star, because there will be better times to talk about that. So let's just get right into the jumps. Right off the bat in the star, we're given a couple routing options. We can either do the star 5 area first or the star 4 area. I personally opted into the star 4 area first, and there's a couple reasons for that. The first one is that these jumps can be really inconsistent, and the second thing is that the star 5 jumps can actually be retryable depending on what kind of mistakes you make. All in all, that made star 5 seem like the better candidate to last, although I ended up getting really consistent at star 4 while I was still really struggling with star 5. Star 4, of course, is the lovely named, lovely, I don't know what the word is. It's the elegantly named glory hole. It's a very elegant star. It has a lot of these like tricky tunnels, tricky wall kicks, precise jumps, which make it a really inconsistent star. But I actually, like I said, I did actually manage to build them consistency with it, which was a surprise, especially considering the nature of some of these jumps. Getting into that wall kick section into too difficult because the angle you get from the slope is actually very good normally. And then we kind of have this section which isn't too difficult. You're climbing up the slippery slope. We use a little cool technique here where you actually bonk on the wall, and that reverses Mario's angle, which happens to line him up very nicely with the slope. It's a pretty cool technique. It's important that you do it here because turning around these slopes can actually be really difficult because they're so slippery. The exception to that is when you have a lot of speed, however. You can get a lot of speed from these wall kicks, and if you have an angle you can turn around. But you can also get a lot of speed from just a normal slope jump, which allows you to turn around the complete opposite direction, which we use to grab this red coin. Jump down on this little pillar, and then do a slide kick over the quicksand. And now we have this little wall kick tunnel here. This is a kind of elaborate section. It has a lot of these like different walls going in different directions. It can be pretty difficult to know which ones to hit here because there's so many of them, but there's a pretty easy way to memorize it. I think everyone does something slightly different here. What I do is pretty much a carbon copy of what Somebro did because it was like the simplest way to do it. And also, I'm kind of lazy when it comes to learning. When it comes to going down this tunnel, there's multiple different angles you can use. Multiple different walls you can hit, multiple different like strats you can do. But generally, if you have like a sense for what wall kick angles will work and which ones won't, you can kind of just improv it, which is what I usually did. I had like a general route, but if I ever strayed away from that route, I would just kind of, improvise and just try to make something up. The most important thing there is that you avoid a lot of the ceilings. This game has frames collision patch, which means that you will not bonk on ceilings, but there are a bunch of points in that wall where it's sloped and you won't be able to wall kick. And I think at the very bottom it's actually a floor, which means you'll just instantly die. Here we have what Ketchup Yoshi calls the shit because it's very brown. Whether or not you like that name or not is irrelevant because this section is quite shit. It is very difficult and precise, and that was a little harsh. I actually kind of like it, but it is very precise and it's definitely a little tilting to die to. This section has these pyramids which can be really difficult to navigate on because, well, slopes are not the best thing in this game. Every time you jump on these slopes, remember that there's a 5-frame window where I can push the A button, but I will not be able to jump. So I need to watch out for that, and I have to precisely jump off these slopes to get the right amount of speed. Here I actually skipped this red coin because it's actually quite difficult in my opinion. I was struggling immensely to get that. Because I had extra red coins on my route due to getting a couple that Somebro skipped, I actually opt to not get that one. One of the red coins I got that Somebro did not actually was the one when falling down into this brown area. The one that's in the air Sombro's route did not actually get. There's another easy one later on that Somebro did not get that I do. It's worth noting that these walls actually will change your angle, so it's important that if you do too many wall kicks, you just land on the slope and then you jump back down. Missing that box is not a big deal because, like I said, you can just jump on the slope and jump back down to the wall kicks. It's important that you hit that box low enough that the shell does not actually push Mario to the side. That's just something that you just kind of get a feel for. The shell allows you to reposition Mario so that way he can get up here. And once you grab the second shell, the glory hole section's done. So in that span of 5 minutes, we've already gone through the section that will kill most of your attempts. It's very difficult to get past this because it's basically doing the entirety of a star that is very, very difficult, very precise, and that is only the beginning of the star, which I think gives you an idea into how difficult this is. This star is like the kind of star where individually there's like no jumps here that are absolutely impossible, but when you put them all together, it just becomes like an impossible feat of consistency to get past everything in the star without making a single major mistake that ends up killing you. It ends up being very, very difficult, so it's kind of like every single additional jump makes the star exponentially harder, which is why, in my personal opinion, this is the second hardest star I've ever collected, because it's just so difficult to put all these jumps together, and there's pretty much no breaks. You have to do all 22 minutes of this is difficult. There are no real easy jumps here. After the little shell maneuver, which is pretty self-explanatory, you just need to use some frame perfect jumps to get a little extra height. Then we get onto this. These pillars are a little awkward, but you can kind of get a feel for them. That strategy there is, in my opinion, by far the easiest way to navigate them. These cones are also another very awkward section. It's actually very easy to die to these, especially diving onto that cone because it's super awkward. You have to do a bunch of camera changes, and then the angle is usually not enough to cancel your speed on the wall. So it ends up being a very, very awkward jump, which is very difficult to do consistently. And now we're back at spawn. This time we're actually going to hit this blue coin switch. The only reason we don't do it at the beginning is because it would waste time that we would want to invest in getting another Tempest glory hole. So we have to just, get it now. Now coming over here, we're going to land on these things. Then this one. Essentially climbing these little pillars. They're actually very nicely laid out. It's kind of cool. I like platforming like this, where it's like these like very arbitrary jumps that are like form like the section that can be navigated. I think it ends up feeling really cool, and I feel like it makes a level feel more. It feels less like a curated like platforming section and more like an actual place, I guess. I mean, I hope there's no places in the world that look like this level, because that would be kind of bad, but. I don't know, I just like it for aesthetic purposes. I think it's cool. Quick detour for that red, and now we're going to do this section, which if you've played this level, you're probably familiar with this, because this is what you do for stars 1, 2, 5, and also 3 with the cheese. For this first beginning, we're actually going to head up to star 1. Only a little bit though. We're only going to just get a little taste of star 1, and then we're going to spit it out because it's not very tasty. Get that red. That red is really high up, but it's actually possible to grab it with a kick, as you saw there. If you're really good, you can grab it with another wall kick, which is the fastest way to do it, but that was not good enough. Once you're on the slope, getting across these things can be quite difficult, because remember, every time you jump off a slope, 5 frames where you can't jump, so it's kind of important that you line yourself up well, that you actually jump off these things properly. It can be pretty difficult. And then this one, the angle you have here, if you are on the slope for too long, is a little unfavorable, so I opt to only do 3 jumps on that slope before going, because otherwise the angle is just too strong and you won't make it, and it did actually kill me once, so. This section can be done pretty quickly and fluidly, which makes it one of my favorites in the level. It's definitely one of the easier bits, but it's just really satisfying and fun. I mentioned earlier that a lot of the jumps on this path would be retryable, and that applies to pretty much everything that's in this section, with the exception of this jump. If you mess up this jump, there's pretty much no way to save it, but that's really about it. Because of like the way the level's structured, you can just land back on the very beginning and you'll be safe. This will change after the crystals, but you kind of have a bit of a safety net. There's one other exception to that, and that is the slope hell section, which we're going to get into soon, which is an absolute nightmare. First we need to get this red. Drop back down. You can land directly on that box. I like all of the geometry in this level. It's very creative. That's one of my favorite things about this stage, is that it just ends up being a very creative stage. I'm not sure if reds is ever going to happen, but with me getting 100, some people are a little more optimistic. Which honestly excites me. I'm really excited to see that, like, you know, more people are thinking of Junk's Reds as a possibility, because it's like we're moving forward in the community as like progress towards like beating like the harder Kaizo hacks. Like maybe one day Dream Edition will be beaten, maybe one day this will be beaten. I think it would be really awesome to see this hack beaten one day, even if I'm not sure if I'll ever do it, because it just seems so impossible even with hundreds. I mentioned a slope hell section, and this is that slope hell section. If you remember from the beginning, the slopes are pretty slippery. These are the same exact slopes, except these are even more brutal. There's a little quicksand pool at the bottom, which means that you need to pretty much constantly be jumping on these. It's very easy to get way too much speed on these things, which will absolutely destroy you. This one actually doesn't have a ceiling, and that's important because there's a red coin up here. You can see the shadow of it on the slope. Now when you're right here, it's important that you avoid bonking, because if you bonk on this thing, you're almost certainly dead. Also, if you wall kick onto the slope, because of how slippery it is and how steep it is, you actually won't be able to butt slide. Mid turnaround, Mario will simply belly slide unless you have a strong enough angle. So, extremely brutal section. One thing that you can do is you can kick off the wall. Kicking off the wall gives you backwards momentum, which actually gives you a lot more leeway for when you can jump. I use kicks off the wall to turn the camera because it gives me enough time it gives me like a pretty big window to time the slope jump and not like zoom forward if I time it a little bit late. So it's a really good technique. Every time I want to go from slope to slope, I do this little QSLG thing, which is very awkward. Hitting the QSLG is awkward, and then, or not hitting the QSLG, but you know, grabbing the ledge is awkward, and then turning around the slope is awkward, then jumping up the slope is awkward. It's just awkward on awkward on awkward. Also, that red coin I just got in the little wall kick section is the second one that I get that Somebro does not get, so I've skipped one red that he gets, and I've gotten 2 extras. This means that at the end I will be able to skip one red that's pretty difficult, which is pretty nice. This was the best route for me, but you can probably tinker with the route a little bit and do some changes to it to make it more tailored to you. This is just the easiest route that I could find. These chain long jumps might seem a little unassuming, but it's kind of important that you do them properly. They're not the tightest chain long jumps in the world, but they're tight enough that you can die to them. Just make sure that you do a big jump. I like just using front cam so I don't lose any speed to weird angles. Then we're going to head down here, and this should look familiar because we were just here. Getting a passive slope hell with 66 coins is like pretty much like the second major obstacle. Like the first major obstacle is Glory Hole. Getting past the slope is like the second major obstacle. Now we have to get to the actual ending, which is going to contain two major things that can kill us. So let's get to those. They'll be soon, and one of them will be something that we've already seen in Star 5. We also saw it in Star 3 because you do most of Star 5 for Star 3. And that is, of course, the very infamous crystal section, which is one of the hardest jumps that you do in this level. So, these crystals are very awkward to maneuver around. The way that you have to do it is that you have to jump dive off this third crystal onto the blue crystal and do a either frame perfect or like 2-frame window jump off this pink crystal. There I got it first try, which is actually quite rare. It's worth noting that depending on how you fuck up, you can actually drop down to the beginning. But like I said, it depends on the way that you make the mistake. The best kind of mistake allows you to just retry the jump immediately. Then the second best outcome is that you fall down to the beginning of the stage. The worst outcome is that you fall in such a way that you can't do anything and you just die. So try not to do that, but that's pretty rare. It will usually only happen if you fall off on the bottom, which is the easier part. It's important that for that wall kick there, I go on the left side because on the right side there's an invisible wall. These walls are a little weird. For some reason these aren't properly aligned, so they actually do change your angle every wall kick. It's not a big deal because you never do too many wall kicks in a row before landing, but it's just something to be careful of. Now we have the second major roadblock that I was talking about before getting to the ending, and that is these damn pyramids. If this level makes you hate anything, it makes you hate fucking pyramids, dude. Pyramids are like the dumbest thing ever. They're so obnoxious. It's so obnoxious to manage your speed on them. And it's just like, they're just so difficult, and this level has so many pyramids. These ones are particularly scary because they're really short. Even though they're not as steep as some of the other ones, they're just so short that it's very easy to slip off because, remember, you have to be on these for 6 frames, and if you press the A button within the first 5 frames, you won't get your jump out. I know I'm saying that a lot, but that's really important because that's a major thing that can kill you here. Especially on this section because, unlike the crystal section, if you fall off here, you're almost certainly dead. So, yeah, be careful. With 70 coins, we're almost at what I call the ending of the star. I actually call it the double ending, because you do the star 5 ending, then you do the 100th ending. But I think it's kind of cute. It's worth noting that this was the second time I had to use more than 10 save state slots for a stage. I ended up having 33 save state slots for this level. And I used most of them. Here we're going to do a cheese. Normally you would have to do these like rotating diamonds that are really annoying, but in hundreds we can skip that, and in reds and star 5 and star 3, because this walk section actually has to be done. You have to make sure that you tap very lightly there so you don't get too much height, and you also want to strain because if you hit the inner walls of that, instead of doing this like neat little loop of just like 2 wall kicks over and over, you're actually going to do this like triangle wall kick thing, which is very difficult to survive. It's not just triangle wall kicks, by the way. It's like very uneven triangle wall kicks. It's very hard to explain or show you, so I encourage you to just like try it out. It's brutal. Now we have one of the most finicky jumps in the stage. There's a bunch of invisibles here, which means that I needed to kind of make a pseudo setup for it, which involved hurting like certain analog stick directions at certain times. It was decently consistent, but I did try that twice in attempts. In my opinion, it's one of the more inconsistent jumps, but nothing you can really do about it besides just practice it over and over. I neglected to mention in the shell section, but this level has switches that can actually spawn geometry. Here, this switch actually spawns those cones. A little bit of a skip is using those cones to just drop down here. I actually don't know if that's a skip, but I actually don't think it's a skip, but it's those cones are meant to be used for other things as well, but we're only using it to come down here. From this section we can go to these green cones, and it's worth noting, well, not green cones, green pyramids. These are the easiest pyramids in the level though. You might have noticed that I grabbed that red coin for long jump. That was an accident. I had known that you can do that, but I opted to not go for it in attempts because I figured that it was a little risky. However, I accidentally did my long jump a little slow because I did it too fast, which happens to be the really good setup to get that red coin like almost every time. So this attempt ended up being really clean. I'm actually really happy with this because it's kind of like the opposite of my Bond Swords of Future successful attempt. In my Bond Swords of Future successful attempt, I like fell off a million times and it was super messy. And by fell off a million times, I mean I fell off once, but that's still annoying. Compared to this where it's like I didn't fall off the stage once and I got that cool red coin grab, I just feel like I did this like really cleanly. Excluding like all the pause buffering, but doing this without pause buffering would be kind of insane because pause buffering is good. Just need to remember the directions to hold for those wall kicks because they don't give you like the same angle every time. And here we are back at these cones. I mentioned earlier that these cones suck and are kind of awkward to get consistent at, and guess what? You have to be a little consistent at them because you need to do them twice. At the minimum twice, because sometimes if you fall off you actually have to do these again to get back. It's worth noting that this hack does have frames collision patch, which means that there are no walls behind slopes. Like if you jump on a slope at the end of it, it won't clip you through. And you also can't bonk off ceilings. And also, there's no glitchy wall kicks. And also, I am forgetting what I was going to say. It was like the main thing I was going to say and I forgot it. What the hell? Oh yeah, no death pixel. If you don't know what death pixel is, it's when you hit the very edge of a wall and it just destroys you. It's like when you bonk, but you can't wall kick. It's very common because it happens on every wall. Yeah, this hack doesn't have that, which is very nice. Enough talking about frames collision patch though, because this is Dj0nk's Junk Hundreds, and we have to do the ending of it. The ending of it starts with this elaborate wall kick sequence. I use a particular visual cue to get a specific angle here. There's multiple angles that work for this section. However, this particular one was the one that was the most consistent for me. It gave me the best lineups here because for this wall kick triangle, you have to do a lot of straining to hit these walls. Most notably when you're going out of it and going to hit that red wall, you need to do a ton of straining. Strain up there and strain as much as possible here, and that lines you up nicely here. Depending on the angle will change how many times you can wall kick off that thing. Usually you can wall kick off it infinitely, but sometimes your angle's a little strong. And that's just to get here. You get on this red section, go along this, and now we're going to go back here, and we might seem a little stranded. Where else can we go? There's that cone section, but that's a dead end. It just has a red coin there. That red coin's actually easier than it looks, but still a little too scary to do in reds or in hundreds. 96 coins, our only option is to fall down this hole, and we're back here. And if this looks familiar, back when we were a wee lad with only 20 coins, we were in this tunnel. We were having a shell here. Unfortunately, there's no shell to save us. We must do this manually. Okay, I'm going to try to get these jumped quick because there's not a lot of time. Short star, it moves by pretty quickly, so gotta explain these quick. There's two different sections here. The first one, we have these little poles that we're going to jump across, and then we have to get on top of this weird, like, horizontal bar. It has two slope sides that you need to watch out for. You need to get an awkward long jump off it. It's quite tricky, and it's actually where my 98 coin choke ended up because I didn't have enough speed to land on the flat part, so I ended up just slipping off by accident. The second part that we need to do is this section where we're going to jump around these horizontal poles, which are sloped. These slopes are actually quite awkward to navigate on. You can't really walk up them super fast, so you want to be on the downward slopes at all times. I use punch cancels to try to like maneuver around them a little better, but it's very awkward and difficult, and it's very easy to mess up. Thankfully, I did not mess up this very last section, but as you can see, there was a 98 coin choke. I do want you guys to see my reaction, so that's pretty much all I have to say. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys whatever I do next. Bye! Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I actually got it. Holy shit. That is insane. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Jesus. It was so clean, too. Holy shit. Oh my god. This is like the first time I've been actually fucking speechless. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit, dude.